Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Karen, for that gracious introduction. And let me thank everyone at the National Multiple Sclerosis Society for honoring me this year. And the award is indicative of some of the challenges we have today, because Karen said to me, watch the globe on the top comes off. So in some parts of the world, I feel that's what's happening to us. So as we held hearings and rallied as many people as we could to bring the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities front and center, I said then, and I'll repeat to you today, that I'll continue to do all I can for the rights of every American with disabilities to be able to fulfill their hopes and dreams and maximize their God-given abilities here and across the world. They have the right and the opportunity. They have the right and deserve the opportunity to live with their loved ones, to pursue an education and a vocation, and more freely to do so without undue barriers. The Convention is vital for the 58 million Americans who have one or more disabilities, the 5.5 million American veterans, and the 2.3 million people around the world, and approximately 13,000 people in my home state of New Jersey who have multiple sclerosis, so that they can work, study, and travel abroad without wondering if the hotel will have an elevator, or if the subway will have adequate audio announcements, or if the office hosting the sales pitch has a wheelchair ramp. I've been proud to work for the passage of the treaty for all of those with multiple sclerosis and other disabilities who are waiting for the United States to join the over 130 countries who have ratified the treaty, because you and I know that the protections will not simply come automatically. The fact is, U.S. leadership is needed to ensure that the treaty's ideals become a reality on the ground. And we, the United States, are well suited to help countries implement the treaty, because the treaty's principles are firmly based in American values. From the United States Constitution, the treaty borrows principles of equality and the protection of minorities. From the Declaration of Independence, it borrows the unalienable right to pursue happiness. And from the Americans with Disabilities Act and other landmark accessibility laws, the treaty borrows the concept of reasonable accommodation, so that those with disabilities are not barred from opportunities others take for granted. By ratifying this treaty, America will be advocating for the adoption of American values around the world. If we do not ratify it, we cannot effectively influence other nations as they implement the treaty, which means that the CRPD, as the treaty is called, has created the venue for discussion on disabled access policy worldwide. The U.S. is effectively barred from that venue, from being a major voice in how that standard is set, with Europe and Asia filling that leadership vacuum, meaning that developing nations around the globe implement the treaty. They will be getting advice from countries that use less effective and more onerous strategies than those that we have in the United States. These strategies could result in inflexible or confusing mandates instead of reasonable accommodation, and system based on hiring quotas instead of equal access. Our experience and input could prove invaluable to those nations. A hands-off approach from the United States might not only lead to less effective outcomes, but could hurt U.S. businesses as well. Those with multiple sclerosis in the United States and their families know that we have the world's best accessibility standards, and those standards have produced the most effective accessibility innovators in the world right here at home. If the United States does not eventually ratify the treaty, other countries may look to not look to American companies or American experts for advice. And if we don't ratify the treaty, in standard-setting bodies, those that are setting the standards globally, the U.S. point of view could be marginalized, and the possibility exists that the world will adopt standards incompatible with American standards. If we don't ratify the treaty, not only might U.S. travelers find that their wheelchair does not fit into another country's accessible doorway, but it could also mean that U.S. companies will not be able to successfully market their accessible products abroad. But ratifying the treaty is not just about protecting U.S. businesses or protecting the basic human rights of 1 billion people worldwide, including the 2.3 million with multiple sclerosis. It's also about America's standing in the world. If we are not willing to engage on the world stage to share our core American values of equality and equal access to opportunity, then on what issues will we be willing to engage on? So let me thank you for recognizing me with this award, but I am not satisfied. I am not satisfied until we pass the Disabilities Treaty. We need action, and I ask you to join with us so that one day we can help all those with multiple sclerosis and other disabilities by calling everyone we can, keeping the pressure on, and getting this treaty across the finish line. Last year when we tried to ratify, not last year, the year before, when we tried to ratify the treaty, we did not lose because of politics. We did not lose because the treaty is somehow harmful to our country. We lost because our opponents were willing to play with the facts, and they did so in a way that made a very small vocal minority sound like a large, impassioned movement. I'm looking at part of what the large, impassioned movement should be and is. So I need you to work with us to inspire the disabilities community about making their voice heard and making a true, large, impassioned movement take place. I need you to call the members of the United States Senate where you reside. Have them get calls and to get meetings so that they know how important this issue is to you back at home. Whether it is on this or funding for the National Institutes of Health or on research, I believe in the late Adlai Stevenson's admonition. When I get the heat at home, I see the light in Washington. And so I urge you to join with us and generate a lot of heat at home so that we can get a lot of light in Washington. We need your help because ratifying the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is the right thing to do for ourselves, for our neighbors, for our wounded warriors, and for all those with multiple sclerosis in America and across the globe. It's time we help lead the world so everyone has the opportunity to fully achieve their dreams and fulfill their God-given talents. We are only a few votes away, and those of you in attendance can make a difference in pushing it over the finish line and giving us an opportunity to exert global leadership in something that we already set the highest standards. I just want the ability for any American who travels abroad because of work or visiting with family or just simply to vacation, to find themselves in a country more likely than not to be living in the same standards as those that we have set in the United States. And that's what the treaty is all about. Thank you so much for what you do in your effort.